Yeah, if he was in any other movie this year, he would have been in an underground MMA fight when we first met him. I like the I love the fact that he was just parking cars,
Right.
Yes.
karaoke, visits his friend's family. We see Aquafina's family, just a regular family,
Yeah.
asking regular family questions.
Grandma.
Mhm. All right, welcome everybody to another edition of the Heroes Peak podcast. I am your host Chris, and we're here to talk about entertainment, culture, and whatever the hell we feel like. And I'm here to do that with my favorite people in the world. Well, second favorite group of people in the world. I'm gonna start with Mike. How you doing, Mike?
Not so good. I had a rough day, but long story short, never go with a hippie to a second location. It doesn't work out well.
All right, it's good to know. We'll keep that in mind.
All right.
And the man with the plan, or the man with the beard, it's Keith. How you doing, Keith?
Hey, what's going on, family? Glad to be back.
Well, we're glad to have you back, safe and sound. I know we talked to you last week about your trip, but again, we're glad to have you back. Of course, the queen of the pod, it's Brooksy. How you doing, Brooksy?
Doing great. Apparently, this week I'm the legend killer. So,
It
everyone
still
watch
didn't
out.
change, huh?
It did not.
That's right. You can make some money in the WWE. And get some
Nobody watching this understands what we're talking about. So,
All right. And last but not least, it's James. How you doing, James?
Hey, I got one thing to say to Marvel, man. Now that we got our first Asian American hero, it's time for your first Haitian American hero. And I don't mean that dude from NBC Heroes back in the day. The Haitian. They call him the Haitian. So on
What?
the there.
What about that guy in season 2 of Luke Cage?
Even worse. Even worse. Don't associate anything with my first Haitian American hero, Luke Cage, please. Please. No disrespect.
Luke
All right.
Cage.
So,
I liked
That was
Luke Cage.
the
yeah,
first
it was
half
an
of season
excellent
And
1 was
he
cinematic
great.
wasn't even
outing.
Haitian. He was Jamaican. He wasn't even Haitian. He was Jamaican.
Really? Okay. I don't remember very well. I don't remember that show very well at all.
That's the
No, he
problem. This is
wasn't
the
that either.
problem. Oh, the actor wasn't even that either, but the character was Jamaican.
Hey,
His accent wasn't really Jamaican, though.
He was playing a Jamaican character.
it was still better than Danny Rand.
Oh
Still
yeah,
better
nothing
than
beats that
Iron
one.
Danny
Fist.
Rand.
Hey, except Colleen Wing. She was great. All right. Anyway, this is a all Shang-Chi podcast all the time. We're going to start with some box office numbers. We're going to do it quick. We don't have time to talk too much about it. Then we're going to talk about the Marvel MCU universe kind of as a whole and where we are. And then we're going to get to our Shang-Chi review. So let's do a quick start. Because numbers this week are pretty important. Now, worldwide box office versus USA only. We'll start with the USA only numbers. So Shang-Chi decided to show up big time with $75 million in US cinema numbers. Now, I know that doesn't sound like much, but that's almost normal outside of pandemic number opening for many movies. I remember everybody freaking out because Wonder Woman, the first Wonder Woman, came in at 70 million. You know, and so that's a really good opening. That is second only to Black Widow, and right above Fast 9 for the best opening weekend U.S. box office.
Where it belongs.
That's right. Now, international box office, nobody's going to defeat the China box office right now. So just so you know, yes, Fast 9 is the number 2 overall largest in worldwide box office.
As it should be.
Yes, of course it is. Because 300 million of that came in from China. They love Fast 9 there. We're looking at Black Widow, number 5, 372 million. But the important number we're talking about today is Shang-Chi, So brought in $150 million worldwide over the 4-day weekend, which is monster pandemic numbers. Monster
And
pandemic numbers.
that doesn't include China, right?
There is probably not
That
going
can,
to be a China
that can include
release.
China.
No,
No,
it
It
that's
does
what
can't
I'm
not.
include
saying.
China.
So that's what I'm saying. Like it doesn't include China. So imagine if it was released in China, it would have
I
been.
Well, no, actually, that's not the word. From what I'm reading is that the number one, the Chinese government seems to be blocking it. From what I heard, from what I read, it seems to be, and I went to one of those market sites. It basically seems to be that the history of the character, the history of Shang-Chi and
Marvel
his
Comics.
father,
Yep.
right? The original character named Fu Manchu, that's the original name character, was
Mm.
originally the father of Shang-Chi. And that Fu Manchu character is obviously a horribly long term racist branding. So that's one of the reasons the Chinese government gave for not letting it in. There's some other
So
stuff.
far, so far.
Right. I'm not part of that the community, so I can't speak on the other stuff of what's happening on the internet, whether the local population isn't liking the um, the movie or the marketing for the movie. Um, a lot of it seems to be based. It's very more Asian American centered than Chinese traditional centered. But again, I'm just passing along information I've heard. So it doesn't seem right now that it's going to be released in China. I don't believe Black Widow has been released in China, only Hong Kong. So it's possible that you're just not going to make that money for many things. Plus, Chinese government has been tamping down on the amount of American films that can come to the country. They only allow a certain number in every year anyway, and they got their
Anything
fast
with Michael Bay, Vin Diesel.
Fast and Furious things that are very just
All the trash.
The
generic.
best of the best.
That's right.
The best
Well,
of the best.
I didn't
Look,
see him let
I
in
That's what
guarantee you, if
Justice
Shang-Chi
League,
the
had,
did they?
best of the best.
if they had released it in China, Shang-Chi would have made a bunch of money anyway. So
I think it's a big enough place that even if you don't have a popular movie, you get a couple of tens of millions, if not
yeah,
$100 million extra. Everybody loves
yeah,
that. So even if it's not the $800 million juggernaut that is High Mom in China, you would get some money. But that's the box office. Shang-Chi doing great, so well that it looks like Sony has decided not to push Venom and is actually up the release date. So Shang-Chi is saving the end of the year for us right now because we'll probably still get Eternals now.
Mm.
We'll probably still get Top Gun has moved, unfortunately, again. But
Wait,
we'll
it has?
Yep, it moved over to 2022. So we'll be getting probably Eternals, Spider-Man, and Venom, and maybe Bond, unless something else goes wrong.
yes. Bond is still slated for October. So
Yes.
mhm.
Yeah,
So
it's gonna be a
that
powerful fourth quarter, man. The fourth quarter of movies are gonna be pretty good.
pretty good for Sony and for Disney, but everybody else is scared and running with good. I mean, if you
Well,
look
what
at the
is
numbers from the other ones, we all liked Suicide Squad, and that just has not.
They didn't do well. Yeah, Warner Brothers is not doing well.
no? And the problem is, what's the big one coming out? Oh, Matrix is going to come out on HBO Max at the same
That's on
time.
It's
HBO
next year.
Max, and so is
So that
Dune.
that's going to kill the box office for that,
Yeah, Dune is coming out too.
right?
That's next year, though.
So
That's not in this. That's in 2022.
no, oh, I thought that
Yeah.
was the end of this year. I thought Dune releases was
No,
the end of this year.
Yeah, Dune is coming out this year in
it is end of this
November.
year. Yeah.
It says May 31st,
Oh
1999.
shit!
That's
No, Matrix 4 is December 22nd.
December 22nd.
December
Yes, December
22nd.
22nd, 2021. Mm-hmm.
So it is coming out this year.
Wow.
It's
Okay.
going to be a Matrix
Okay,
on
Yeah.
Christmas.
All
I
right,
just
Warner
Yeah,
got a
because
Brothers.
I
note.
thought
Dune is
I
Dune
was
is coming
confused. I
out in
saw because I
October.
saw that teaser today, and I thought I could have swore it said 2021. So
Yep.
for the Matrix 4.
So yes, The Matrix is coming out. Dune is coming out.
But it is
All this
also
year.
coming out on HBO Max at the same
HBO
time.
Max. And so
Yeah.
you're gonna get the same thing you got
Yeah.
from Suicide Squad. I think we'll never see numbers. They still haven't shown us numbers, which I would like. We would all like to compare them. And the Samba numbers are not good enough because those things seem to be a little inaccurate. All right, a
Yeah.
quick
Yeah,
question
but
about the
those are
box.
two movies. Those are two movies that are really perfectly built for the theater experience. I know Keith's idea of everybody's gonna be live, watching from home in the future. I'm like, pause, not so quick, not yet. We still got a little bit more box office mojo to get from some of these movies in the movie theater as opposed to at home on your 65-inch 4K TV
Huh, I think they're
and
leaving money
point
on the
one surround
table.
sound.
I'm really disappointed after Black Widow. Black Widow did solid numbers at in the box office and at home.
Whatever they could have done in the box office, like I guarantee you, they would have been able to double that at home. Like that's they just restricted this strictly to the box office. Like I didn't say that people would never go to the movies again. Like you just like this is just regular theater numbers, bro. Like that's not even the numbers that you would expect from like a major global release in regular non-COVID times. So don't get too excited like, oh, we're back. Like we're not. Like it had they released it on on HBO Max, I mean on Disney Plus as well, like I think that they've even got even more numbers. Like people like
Yeah, we
me
saw we
who wasn't going
Yeah,
to
they
the
would have got
theater
more
to see
numbers.
it, but would have
Yeah, but
definitely
I'm
have
gonna
paid to
disagree
see
with
it.
you because
You know what I'm
the
saying? So
theaters
like
near
it's not
me
it's
all had.
that part isn't going away.
I'm gonna disagree because the theaters near me had COVID restrictions in place, so they had entire rows blocked out, and those theaters, those showings were all sold out. So
oh
if those rows were open, I guarantee you they would have sold all those tickets too.
No, this is what no. What I'm
right.
saying is like the numbers that they made are like regular theater opening, like regular numbers. Like it's not like those were box office. Like if this was non-COVID,
Hmm.
that 80 million would have been way more. Is what I'm
That
saying.
would have been at
Right?
Like
least
Yeah.
you know
a
what I'm saying.
100,
Like
Yeah,
if not
had they right
Yeah.
105.
now released had they released it on Disney Plus as well, it would have
Hmm.
blown away the numbers as well. Like it would, you know what I'm saying? Like I don't think like
Yeah.
because like myself, who wasn't going to go to the movies to see it, but I definitely would have paid to see it on Disney Plus.
Yeah.
Yeah, and we saw the only numbers the only official numbers we've received so far have been Black Widow numbers, and that was on top of her, which is still the number one opening weekend, 3-day weekend from a movie in the pandemic. She got another 60 million from Disney Plus, so it's not like it
And
restricted people going to
she
the
hit
movie
streaming
theater.
number targets.
So Black Widow has been a huge success to me, and I was actually really sad. Now I know that Disney executive popped off with the "this is an experiment" thing
experiment.
about, yeah, terrible wording, but whether he's talking business or whatever, um, I really think I thought after Black Widow they would go, oh, some people will go to the movies, we'll get some money here, we'll just
And
restructure some
yeah,
contracts.
exactly.
So the thing about that is it looks like we're going to get straight movie releases in the theater until 45 days, I think is the number I heard, and then it'll move over to Disney Plus. So very small window actually overall. How was your guys' theater?
They
Mine
can't
was
get rid of it.
practically empty. We had my 5 people, and then there were probably maybe 10 other people in the entire theater.
I mean, my theater in North Jersey was about 90 to 95% filled. I want to say.
Wow, jeez.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Not mine. Mine was about 50%. Like I said, they had like every other row pretty much blocked off.
See, that's Canada. They're probably still doing
I want to
COVID
say mine was
restrictions.
like
Like
50%
Yeah.
probably. I don't even remember, but we had the like went with one of the that had like the big lounge chairs, so there was already kind of a lot of space between people.
Yeah, you get to order which seats you want, which group you're sitting with, but
they were
Yeah.
already
even
separatists. So
considering that in spacing, that was pretty empty, and we went what five
I don't think they can hear you, Keith.
Ah,
5 o'clock on a holiday Sunday. So
All right.
Yeah, we went Saturday.
Hey,
We
Chris.
don't have Keith.
Yeah, why don't we go to break when we come back
yeah,
so we can
we'll
fix our
go to
audio
break. We'll
issues?
talk about the MCU, and hopefully we'll get Keith back on. See you in
All
a few
right.
minutes.
What?
All right, welcome back, everybody. Looks like we are going directly into our Shang-Chi review. What you can't see behind me is Miss Minutes telling me to move my ass because I have to work tomorrow. All right, so Shang-Chi. I do have it open over here. Shang-Chi and the Legend of the Ten Rings, the 2021 action adventure Marvel Cinematic Universe masterpiece. Uh, Directed by Destin Daniel Cretton. Written by Dave Callahan, Destin Daniel Cretton, and Andrew Lanham. Starring Simu Liu as Shang-Chi, Tony Leung as Zhu Wenwu, Aquafina as Katie, Menger Zhang as Yaling, Fala Chen as Li, and Michelle Yao as Ying Nan. Whew, I'm sorry to anybody who had to listen to that. I honestly spent all day listening to people say the names, trying to move it from my head to my mouth, and it didn't really work very well. But anyway, so this is a new movie for Phase 4 of the Marvel Cinematic Universe, kicking us off. Whereas, like, what, Black Widow would be Phase 2.5 or something, right?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Something
something like
like
that.
that. So let's go right into this, guys. I'm gonna go around the horn and say, just give me a general what you thought about the movie. Try not to do much spoil. We will be doing spoilers, so I guess if you want to listen.
Yeah, we're gonna spoil the hell out of this.
But I just want to get an initial feel for it. Don't go into a long soliloquy or anything. Mike, I'm going to give you the first shot here.
Before we get started, does anyone want to get out?
You've heard of this. You've seen this, right? You know what that is.
It is unavoidable. It is your destiny.
Is this not why you are here?
Do or do not. There is no try.
Knock that shit off.
What did you think of Shang-Chi?
I thought this was a great kickoff to Phase 4. A lot of action, some comedy, good comedy. Love the visuals. I don't know. I couldn't really ask for something better to start off this next phase. So I'm excited for what's coming.
All right. So, Brooksy, what did you think of Shang-Chi?
I loved it.
Nice, concise, direct to the point. See, Mike, that's how you do it. All right, James.
Before I go into my monologue here, no, seriously, I loved it as well. It kind of gave me vibes of Black Panther meets Kung Fu Hustle. Um, right amount of comedy, great action fights, and a cultural connection that I have yet to see in Marvel beyond Black Panther. So that's my first take.
And my first take was it was awesome. It was no, seriously, some of the not only the best hand to hand in the MCU. That's saying a lot because we haven't had. It's not 100% consistent, but we've had some really good fight choreography here and there. Um, but also, what I love is a good, family drama within these movies, and this provided that in spades in a surprise way, in a surprising way that I was not expecting. So those are the two things that really loved about this. So let's get into some more specifics, and I want to first talk about the opening of this movie, and that's because this flashback childhood scene that we've seen in a lot of superhero films. We see it in Wonder Woman, Aquaman, we see it in Black Widow, everything. But this one was structured a little differently, and I was surprised at how well I thought the whole flashbacks, which were sprinkled in throughout the movie as well as this opening scene, was done really well. Whereas I've sometimes been annoyed with the childhood, hey, look, this person got bullied. that's why they're a superhero, right? So, what did you guys think of the flashback designs overall? And yeah, what did you guys think of the flashbacks and how it was set up?
Chris,
I
I
feel like
go ahead, Brooke.
Oh,
Sorry.
I feel like every single MCU character has dad issues. Every last one of them. It is like spot on. Every movie, like the main character has daddy issues. I mean, the writers of these comics must have really had fucked up dads because every single character has like some severe father issues.
well, I'm actually going to take that quickly before James jumps in and say that um the oh shit, I completely lost my train of thought. All right, James, what did you think of the flashbacks?
I thought they did a pretty good use of the flashbacks. It kind of reminded me a little bit of the Dark Knight and Batman Begins, where like in the opening sequence showing like the history of the Mandarin and the Ten Rings, you kind of bring the audience up to speed, and then later on you sprinkle key moments in the characters' background to match the scene that you're watching. Like there's a reason why the certain flashbacks about him and his mother or him and his sister was interjected at the moments of the movie where it made sense. So I thought, and this is probably direction more than writing, because I don't know, the writing you probably write it a linear path, and then director kind of like takes the screenplay and decides to interject certain scenes. So I'm probably giving kudos to the director more than anyone else for this part. So I thought they did a pretty good job using the flashbacks without making it feel like you're watching a lost TV show where it's all flashbacks and it's like it's kind of crazy. But yeah, I thought they did a pretty good job. Kept me entertained and kept me engaged with each character the flashback was giving me.
Mm-hmm. Mike, what did you think?
Yeah, I also thought they did a good job because I figured that most of the audience is probably not going to understand the history of the Ten Rings and the Mandarin. So I liked how they introduced all of this to the audience, sprinkled here and there, and introduced Shang-Chi. And so it all came together well to tell that story, that backstory.
Well, an interesting thing, I was listening to a interview with the writer, and he mentioned basically Marvel gave them carte blanche on reconstructing this hero and his backstory because of the, as we mentioned before earlier, the unfortunate racial history of the design, character design, when he was made, why he was made, in the middle of the 70s, when Bruce Lee was getting popular and the whole shebang, and they weren't. It wasn't like they were trying to be culturally sensitive and bring and open up the Marvel comics to new readers. They were, they were kung fu was hot and they were trying to take advantage of it,
Make money.
unfortunately.
Yep.
So it was interesting to hear him just say Marvel or Kevin Feige specifically said, guys, just make something. And they hired an Asian American screenwriter, Asian American director, and let them go at it.
I thought what was even great too is the fact that Simu Liu, he kind of willed himself into the role. Like 7 years ago,
Mm-hmm.
he was like, "Good job with Captain America and Thor. Now let's get an Asian American actor." Like I said, Haitian American actor too. And 7 years later, he's in the role. Like that's willing something into existence, man. That's
Right.
amazing. He still has that tweet up too.
Got to put it out. Got to put it out in the universe. So I think the most important thing that happened in the early of this movie, and one of my favorite scenes completely in this entire movie, um, was the meeting of Shang-Chi's mom and dad, and that's so when let me get the names here, Wen Wu and Zhao Ling, I believe. Um, and this is the scene where they meet in the forest, and it's a yellow and green forest, and they have this battle that turns into this romantic meet cute. I just
Hmm.
thought that scene. like when you're introduced to a evil 10,000-year-old warlord, and you're just expecting him to be this just a certain type of character, and the director and the writers and the actors managed to make you care about this character and his turn to a normal life. Do you guys agree with that sentiment? Do you think that the bad guy here made you feel for him and what he was building, or did you not really connect there?
I totally connected with it. I That was one of my favorite scenes in the whole movie. I loved how they made it like this dance, and you could like feel the emotions of them falling in love. I loved that scene. I thought it was like like I said, one of the best scenes. It was so well done.
It really emotionally anchored the entire movie for me, for when later on he's trying to reconnect with his dead wife or his children. Like that's the scene that tells you he has the ability to do this and give up his 10,000-year reign. And it's kind of crazy that what how much power that one scene provides.
The one thing, Chris, the
Yep.
one thing that I got from that scene, it reminded me a lot of Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon, because in that
Yeah, it's
movie,
supposed to.
you get a
Yeah.
lot of
Hmm.
yeah, there's a lot of like the it's not dancing, but it's not fighting. It's like a marriage of the two, and seeing how those two melded into you trying to believe that there's a true romance building between these two characters. Yeah, deep down, I'm thinking this is a far fetched idea. They just started fighting, now all of a sudden they're in love. But I get it, especially with the music. I know we probably won't talk about the score in this movie, but the music that's being played throughout that scene made it believable for me that these two are really deeply connected.
My guess.
Yeah, but it wasn't like they fought and fell in love, because you got to remember by this point he's how old? He's been
He's like
he's
a
been a
thousand
dick
years
for like a
old.
1,000 years.
10,000 years or
They
something,
met
right?
that first time, but he kept going back too, right? So it could have been a span of like 100 years or
That's
whatever.
true. I forgot about that. Yeah.
Yeah. So and
Yeah.
then they decided to have kids and whatever, and then
Yeah,
went from
there was
there.
no point of reference for time except for like he went in a car, but other than that, like yeah, you're right.
Yeah.
So I just bring that up just because I thought that was such an important scene. So we
Hmm.
follow that up, kind of getting the next set of scenes is getting to know our main character, Simu Yu. Ugh,
Simu Liu,
man, no, Simu
Shang-Chi.
Liu,
Leo.
Shang-Chi. Right.
It's Leo.
See, that's the hard part is I didn't hear the I when some people were
Hmm.
saying it, so I'm not sure. Anyway, so uh, we meet this character, and the one thing that came to mind about this character in this opening was this is a regular dude, and not a lot of MCU hero characters that you meet feel like regular people when you meet them. They're all super soldiers or ex soldiers or in the middle of a war or the smartest billionaires on the planet or something. They seem extra special like immediately. Whereas this
Hmm.
guy, like you meet him and they just like, yeah, he's just a dude trying to live a life. What did you guys think of Shang-Chi?
I mean, we kind of knew. Again, the trailers kind of let us to know that this guy is nothing to mess with. So when we see him in as a valet, it's like one of those old. Again, I keep going back to the kung fu flicks where the main antagonist, the main protagonist, he plays like a mild mannered, humble guy in the beginning of the movie, but this guy's a kick ass dude. Like all you need is to really start a fight with him, and he's gonna unleash his true power, like Bruce Lee and Chinese Connection or any of the others movies where it's like he plays like that role, like a down to earth type of guy, and all of a sudden it just takes one henchman to come at him. All of a sudden, his necklace is ripped, and then he's like, I broke my promise to my mother's soul. Now I got to kick ass. So it's like you knew it
Right.
was coming. So yeah, you can see him playing the role. He's struggling. He's parking cars. He's cracking jokes with Aquafina, but underneath that, this is a badass dude.
Yeah, I mean the character is well written. It's that guy, he didn't ask for this, right? He just wants to forget about what happened in, you know,
He doesn't want to get
before.
in trouble.
Right.
I don't want any
He just
trouble.
he just all he wants to do is park cars during the day, do karaoke, and get drunk at night. Right, which
Right.
is
Yep.
understandable. That's
Hmm.
there's nothing wrong with that life, but sometimes that greatness is thrust upon you. Right.
Squad goals.
Yeah.
Brooksy, what do you think of our main protagonist here?
I think that's an interesting like thing that I never thought about was that he is just like your regular schmegular guy where everyone else is like someone special. That is an interesting twist on his character. I mean, obviously he's not just regular schmegular,
But
but
he's
he
trying to
appears
be.
that way.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
He's trying to be and he appears that way where
No, but for the most part, he is. He's not. He
right.
doesn't have superpowers. Right. He's just a
Unlike
great martial artist. Until he gets the rings, then he'll have some powers. Right.
Yeah,
yeah,
but
if it
the
was
level of
any
his martial arts is it's basically like having a superpower.
Yeah.
yeah, yeah, if he was in any other movie this year, he would have been in an underground MMA fight when we first met him. I like the I love the fact that he was just parking cars,
Right.
Yeah.
karaoke, visits his friend's family. We see Aquafina's family, just a regular family,
Yeah.
asking regular family questions.
Grandma.
Mhm. Yeah, when are you two getting
Yeah.
married?
Even when they get to the fight club, he's like hesitant. He doesn't want to fight. He's like, "What the hell?"
Right.
Hmm.
So
And so, uh, we're gonna do an overall view here, quick, of the action set pieces as a whole. What did you think of the action? And you can split it between the two because there's a lot of reviews have really split it between the first half of the movie, more hand to hand, very basic, very down to earth fight styles, versus the second half of the movie, which gets into more magical, mystical elements, specialty weapons, dragons, the whole shebang. So I want each of you to tell me what you thought of the fight sequences. Do you have a favorite, and what do you compare them to? So I'm going to start with James. I should have looked this up. I feel really sorry for saying it. The man who was originally head of the stunt crew for this movie passed, and he was
Yes,
a
he
member
did.
of Jackie
A couple
Chan's
months
stunt
ago.
crew. And I
mhm.
did not look up the name right off the bat here, so I'm sorry for not looking that up. But
It's all right.
yeah,
But
Shame on
thanks to
you.
him.
yeah,
Yeah,
I'll,
thanks to
I'll
him.
post I'll post this info on the
yeah, and the rest of the crew,
video.
they did a
Yeah.
bang up job. Yeah.
Yeah, that entire
Go ahead,
first
James.
act from the bus scene, which is probably the best one everyone keeps talking about and raving on the internet. The skyscraper outside of not even that fight with an MMA. I'm talking about the fight outside of the skyscrapers of the death dealers and everyone. That was very Jackie Chan esque. Everything leading up until once they got into Tao Lo. That's when I thought that was very great, grounded. You know, Donnie Yen, Jackie Chan. Who's the guy who did the Kung Fu Hustle movie? His name right now escapes me. But movies like that, I felt it was really like that style of Stephen Chow. Thank you. But once we get to the second half, that's when Marvel's gonna marvel. You know, they're gonna come out with the big bombastic CGI. They're gonna come out with the armies of things, the Soul Seekers, whatnot. And I enjoy it as a Marvel fan. Like you give me great CGI stuff, but what they did different than any other Marvel movie is they gave me characters that I didn't think I would like the guy from Kung Fu Hustle who was the archer teacher. His whole cadre of archers. Um, and then the bad guys that were with the Mandarin and Ten Rings, including the guy from Creed 2, Razor Fist, which keeps reminding me of Taser Face, but Razor Fist. Um,
Right.
so it wasn't
I
so
just
much
kept
martial arts hand to hand. It was more like a battle scene, like something from Lord of the Rings or
right.
whatnot. That
Yeah, I
was
kept
really
I kept
huge.
hearing Rocket Raccoon say, "I need that guy's arm."
I can see that. So I'm gonna lean towards the first act as my favorite because I'm gonna love that style of fighting. But I also enjoy the second half too because Marvel's gonna Marvel.
Mhm.
Yeah.
All right,
Yeah. I'm
Mike.
I'm with you there. So, um, fight choreography in the first part, all the martial art fighting against on the bus, and then in the ring, and then against that one fight. Who was the guy who trained him when he was a kid? What's his name? Death Dealer. That fight on the condo floor with the neon in the backdrop. That was really cool. And then yeah, you
Oh,
gotta it's huh?
dead, Mike. I forgot one scene. Go
Yeah.
ahead.
Uh, yeah, I was just gonna say like, but yeah, Marvel's gonna Marvel, so you gotta expect a glorious, aliens versus hero battle at the end. Well, in this case, we got demons, right? So
Chris, the one fight, I don't think it's a fight, it's a bloodbath, but to me it's probably the most powerful moment in the movie was was after his wife gets killed.
Oh,
The
I was going to talk
Mandarin
about,
goes
yeah.
into that restaurant to find the guys who killed her. He brings his 12-year-old son with them. He's like, "Is that them?"
right.
He looks at him. That was them.
And then he just freaking
Oh,
goes out.
dude! Like
That
that
was
was
savage.
my
Yeah.
favorite fighting moment in the entire movie.
Hmm.
All right,
Forgot about that.
Brooksy, your favorite type of thing to talk about here, kung fu
I
battles.
I
Family.
definitely liked the first. I liked the bus scene. That was my favorite scene. Um, like you said, everyone keeps talking about it. I just think like even if you're not a kung fu fan or even if you don't know anything about fighting, you can see and understand how difficult that type of fighting is and how well choreographed it was. I just think it was done so well. That was my favorite scene. That got me like super hyped to like see what he does and like see what his powers are and to really get into the movie. So,
Yeah, I think they did a great job of telling you about characters and story within the fighting. We talked about that early scene with the couple falling in love with their early battles, and how that
yeah.
scene plays into the very end, which is, him learning from his aunt how he's going to actually stand up to his father, because knowing that his mother beat his father even though he had the 10 rings, he's like, there's something more I can inherit from my mother to up my level here, which we can talk about cultural significance, but that was awesome. um what I love about the first half battles is, like, James has said, the Jackie Chan influence, which is the environment usage, using the bus, using your jacket, using, the one time I think he like flipped over, when they're outside the building, and he flipped over the bar and just kicked the wood out from under the one guy, like the simplest stuff. So that's all fun, but I'm also a big fan of the giant CGI battle if it's done well. And
Agreed.
Yes,
I
agreed.
thought the way they battled over the 10 rings was a great battle between the father and son. And
Yeah, that was great one on one. That's what I was waiting for there.
it wasn't a neither looked like they were trying to kill the other even though they were going full out. And then when Shang-Chi got 5 of the rings and his dad had 5 in the rings, I think that was, and then the colors started coming out, and the two
Yeah.
were battling for position and for power, and then they started blaming each other for what happened to the mother, and the
Deep.
emotion was
That was a
all
deep,
there.
deep dialogue there. We talked about the fighting. That conversation was
Yeah.
extremely deep.
Yeah, when he blamed he's like, you were there when your mother died and you didn't do
Yeah.
anything, and he's like blaming a
That was
7-year-old.
so wild when really they came because of the dad. Like they wouldn't have even come if the dad wasn't a
Hmm.
horrible, evil warlord.
Right, so it's like, they never, yes, there were some fights that were probably felt less story driven, but all the fights between him and his dad were story driven. Him fighting his aunt, or her teaching him how to fight in a style, was story driven. All that stuff, I think it did really well. Um, the fun fights were the cage matches. That was, but my favorite part of the cage match was when you're in the middle of it, you get the flashback for the sister, and then when you come out of the flashback, she roundhouse kicks him to the face,
Yep.
because it ends with her saying, "You said you would be back in 3 days," and then
Yeah.
she's like, "Yeah, this is for not coming back." That
Yeah,
was
that's a good
great.
example of marrying the flashback with the character in the scene, as I was saying earlier.
Hmm.
Yeah.
I think they did a great job of marrying them, even the CGI big battleness of it. All right, comedy. This is always a big issue with non-Marvel fans, that they actually inject comedy, especially into some of the fight sequences. We saw it specifically in the bus sequence, where we had a couple of stops. We saw it at the beginning of the, like, going into the Fight Club sequence, where they made him take his shirt off, and she's like, "Where's your shirt?" And he's like, "I don't know."
I
So
think she was shocked too about how nice his body was, right?
right,
Right.
yeah, she
Yeah.
was.
Yeah.
Thirst
Aquafina had
trap.
some.
Thirst trap.
That's right.
Wow.
Aquafina had some comedy, of course. That's what she's there for. But the biggest comedy surprise was Sir Ben Kingsley showing up again.
Mr.
Yeah.
Trevor got his redemption, like I said.
What did you guys think of the comedy? Do you think they overshot in some spots? Do you think the Iron Man 3 bit was too much, or do you think it
Listen,
closed up a loop that was open?
Chris, I'm not one of those the audience members out there who always critiquing Marvel for being too goofy and having. I'm not one of those guys. I hate when I hear from certain reviewers that I really respect when they start going into their whole, "Oh, Marvel's jokes didn't land." I'm like, no, it's. I get it. It's not coming straight from the comic books, and it doesn't have to be like DC Dark. They're injecting humor for people just to feel like a little bit like entertained, right? It can't just be dark and violent the whole time.
Entertainment.
You know. Now, if the comedy is not as funny, like for example, some of the comedy in Captain Marvel I didn't find funny, or Ant Man the Wasp, that movie. There was
Oh
some
no, I
comedy that
love
was
that's
other
my favorite.
Lewis outside of Lewis. Yeah, I get
Ant
it.
Man's
But
great.
this movie, I thought, did a good job. Even when the family moment, when they're sitting there and grandma's talking to Aquafina about her getting, all that to me just felt like it was relatable one way or another. Like, I enjoyed the comedy. I didn't think there was anything that they did that made it seem like it was too goofy. I mean, you're watching a goddamn superhero movie for like you're gonna, turn off your
Yeah,
realism for a second and just enjoy.
but
It was the thing that made me feel like this was too much, like a comedy show.
no, I'm with you there, James. So, like, for example, no, the comedy also helps you realize that they are also just they're still people. Like, they're it's not like my. I think Chris and I have the same problem with Man of Steel is that we had this over brooding Superman throughout the whole thing, right? Like, and a little bit more. I would have loved to have seen more humanity in the character in that movie. So I think the comedy here helps to bring you to their world and how they live. Like the whole karaoke drinking part, that was hilarious, right?
Yeah,
And you
yeah.
just people hanging out having fun. Um,
Makes the characters well-rounded when you can see not
right,
only
exactly.
what are they like when they're sad or angry, but also when they're
Yeah.
happy and having fun.
There's
Yeah,
a sect
exactly.
of
So
Marvel fandom that hates the quote unquote Disney-fied version of these movies. A lot of these they're out there and they're strong. Like
Hmm.
they look at
oh yeah.
comedy, one of the issues that they really can't get behind. They'd rather be
But
straight from the comic books as Stan Lee originally envisioned,
but
which is
even
stupid.
the comic books were full of joke lines. How many jokes did Peter Parker tell throughout his comic series,
That's
right?
how he
And
became so
each
popular.
well, and
Right.
and each new writer changed up, their style, what
Yeah.
each character was doing and how what their voice was like, and sometimes they had sharper comedy bits, sometimes they didn't. I mean, my X-Men comics was always about Wolverine insulting Scott and you laughing
Yeah.
specifically because he's
Exactly. And where would Deadpool be without his
Well,
comedy, right?
he's all comedy on purpose
So
though.
these
right.
these fanboys are gonna complain that Deadpool, shouldn't
Right.
be funny. Like, come on.
All right. Brooks, what did you think of the comedy? Did it land for you in general?
It did. I'm a big Aquafina fan, so I really enjoyed her. I thought she was great in this. Um, and The one thing I didn't fully understand though was the random old white dude, but maybe
Oh,
he
yeah.
like that was like sort of confusing to me. I don't like, I
So,
don't know.
so this is a
But
little bit of ask the geek here.
yep.
So in the movie Iron Man 3, there and you actually get this explanation from the father to Aquafina in the family dinner scene. So do you remember that scene?
Yeah, and
Yeah.
I did want to talk about this because that
Yes, it's a really
I was
important
so
scene.
mad at Iron Man 3 for that whole
No, no, I
flattery
enjoy.
thing.
So
I thought it was a good use because all right. So the history is the one of the Iron Man's biggest villains is the Mandarin, which is basically a racist stereotype, bad Chinese bad guy, and he's got 10 rings, literally finger rings, and those rings each have a different power, a la the Infinity Stones, right? So
Okay.
that's
Right.
that's the history of the character. So in Iron Man 3, um, they kind of decided they were going to use the Mandarin, but as a twist at the end, the Mandarin wasn't really the Mandarin. It was an actor named Trevor Slattery, this old white guy, is actually Indian British, Ben Kingsley. Um, and the real Mandarin was really just a white business dude who hated Tony Stark and had created this fake, um, who had stolen the name the Ten Rings and made up the name the Mandarin to 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 put fear in the U.S. government as a terrorist organization. So they get obviously beaten at the end of that movie, but this Trevor Slattery guy, because he was the face of this, there's a little short that he gets taken out of prison by the actual real Ten Rings organization, which we see here in Shang-Chi.
Hmm.
Now,
Yeah.
what I love about this scene is that they actually do the straight talk, where he says, I can't believe they were using the name the Mandarin because that's a chicken dish, right?
Right.
Yeah.
I remember that part. And he's like making fun of it.
Right. So that's what that is about. Trevor Slattery is that guy. He was basically imprisoned instead of killed for impersonating the Ten Rings and the
Yeah, see, and don't forget, Ten Rings has been around since Iron Man 1, right?
right
The terrorists and that captured Tony,
the
they were
Ten
working with
Rings.
the Ten Rings.
10 rings.
So
By the way,
yeah.
the character Trevor owns. We talk about comedy. He owns the most funniest moment in the movie when he's talking about Planet of the Apes as if they were real like
Well,
actors. They're
Yeah.
horses. Like that
Yeah,
cannot
the
have been any funnier in any other movie but this
yeah,
movie.
yeah.
yeah
Props
the
to Ben Kingsley because he's still great after all this time, man.
yeah the writer in the interview I heard specifically called that scene out as something he couldn't believe he was actually going to see filmed, was Ben Kingsley talking about the Planet of the Apes. So
They taught them how to ride
Wow, man.
horses.
and then all of the the looks the other actors were giving, great job at landing the comedic looks at, oh my god, this guy believes they were actually monkeys riding horses, and if they could train monkeys to ride horses, I could do anything. All right,
Shout out to Ben Kingsley.
good job, Ben Kingsley. All right, question about the mythical creatures. All right, number one, fucking
Oof.
dragons. I love dragons. Nothing. Once I saw a dragon, I was happy. I was never not going to be happy about a giant dragon. And we didn't just see the face. It wasn't just like he got to touch the nose of the dragon underwater. We
Yeah.
saw full on in the sky, bright blue, fully colored dragon fighting.
So
I
Chris,
was
when
happy.
you the movie when you text us when you still watching the movie when you
I
text us a fucking dragon.
no, I was it was after the movie because it was after the movie, but yes, that's the first thing I texted was fucking dragons, and I was happy. Plus, there was a Nine Tails, and as a Naruto fan, there being Nine Tails
Yes,
walking around.
I wanted to tell Eric about that, but he hasn't seen the movie. But yeah, the Nine Tails Fox.
Hmm.
That's pretty good.
Um,
Oh, what I didn't
you
like
guys,
though was Trevor's the whatever that freaking
The fluffy
bubble no
base, the
face.
fluffy, yeah.
Yeah,
The
that's the
pink
only
You
thing.
didn't
bird.
like that?
No,
That was one
no,
of my favorite
I thought it was cute.
characters.
no,
I liked it.
It is
It's so
no.
absolutely going to
cute.
sell gangbusters at Christmas.
It's
Yeah,
going
the toy
to,
is out.
and I'm not getting it.
It reminded me of Mookie.
I was like,
Wow.
he's got no face, and he's rather
He's
sensitive.
giving driving directions. No, no.
Dude, it's like what's cousin it? Cousin it, you don't see a face, but he's like
And
chattering, squeaks and whatever.
those things probably taste delicious.
Oh, the
Hey,
Chewbacca.
Well, they've got 6 legs, so
Yeah,
there's a
exactly.
lot of
Anybody want a drumstick?
muscles.
wow.
Now,
All right,
I
that's
love
it.
magical places. Another magical place to go with what's the place that Iron Fist is from? Kung Lung. Kung Lung.
Kung
Kung
Long,
Long.
right.
Thank you, Kung Long.
And then we also have Asgard and Wakanda. So we've had several cool mystical locations. I thought the location was cool. All right. Uh Story and plot overall. Did you guys think they pulled off creating this new Marvel hero for you to love? His enough of his background, the family issues, and then him obviously eventually receiving the 10 rings so he can become the next superhero of the Marvel universe. What do you guys think of the story and plot overall?
I thought it was a pretty good modern version of like Shakespearean meets Asian culture, whereas when I really dig into this movie beyond the martial arts and fantastical and the MCU narrative, it's I think one of you guys, Brooks mentioned it, the father daddy issues, but I saw this a little bit as daddy and mom issues, like the legacy of his mom, how his mom came from a peaceful place, more in tune with nature and harmony, whereas his dad came from like 1,000 years of warlord and violence and the typical dad of the MCU, and he had to come to terms with having both of those legacies be part of his character, who he is. Like when he that final fight with his dad when he's going through the water, and again, it's not really it is flashbacks. They're showing different images, not just of his dad but also his mom, and he accepts who he is. And to me, that was like the deeper narrative in the story about legacy of your parents, good or bad, and adopting both mom and father. So and I don't. I've been trying to find anywhere where the director actually talks about this. So maybe I'm just going off the hip about this. But I think that's what they're really trying to weave into this story is the legacy part of your parents and how it dictates you moving forward as a character, hero or a villain.
Yeah, I'm pretty much with you there. I also like that they didn't spend too much time on the powers of the rings, the history of the rings,
Oh
like,
yeah,
and
me
then
too,
left it at
Mike.
the end,
Agreed.
left it open at the end, like, wow, we don't really know much about this. Let's find out, right?
Well, and
So,
MacGuffin.
they just let them be powerful things that
right,
were used. They
exactly.
didn't.
Yep, yep. So,
That's interesting because I didn't even think why do these rings have powers? Where did they come from?
hmm
You just know they do stuff.
yeah,
Yeah,
That's
They
good.
hit
That means the
hard.
job was well done. That means the job was well done by the.
exactly.
Hmm. Yeah, when you start worrying about what the magical thing does instead of just watching somebody do it, right? Um, and to your point, James, the accepting both sides of his family history and whatever. One of the best scenes that really shows that was all all of Shang-Chi's fighting up until he got to the new place was closed fist. And then when he asked his aunt how
Hmm.
to beat his dad, she literally just opened his hand. And
yeah. He changed styles. Yep.
that's a classic style chip, but it's also the his dad has been teaching him. He taught him how to fight with this
hmm
style. And then now she's like, "But you have to accept your mom's style as
Great
well." And it
connections.
So,
was
Great connections.
so we did get a flashback. His mom was training him before she died, right?
Yeah,
So,
Yeah.
she showed him
yeah.
some of the tai chi type moves and the wushu
and
type
then
moves
and then after she died, Dad took over and said, "You're gonna learn this,"
and
right?
made him
So,
punch a wall
Right.
and
Exactly.
smacked him around and
The
whatever.
traditional
So
kung
Yeah.
fu
yeah,
fight. That's a great connection of
Don't
Chris.
forget,
I totally forgot about that part too.
don't
yeah.
forget to give a shout out to Michelle Yeoh, the
Oh,
aunt.
so
So,
great, always great.
mhm. Yeah.
Hot aunt
And
alert.
And
MCU's
May's
loving the
got
hot
competition
aunts.
now.
Aunt May, you're not alone.
And
Wow.
I guess the last thing we would talk about is the cultural aspects, but you guys were already kind of getting in there. I don't
Yeah.
have any kind of separate culturals, fighting for attention within my history. Well, do you guys, any of you guys, have anything like that would you connected to with this movie?
Mm, not that I can think of.
I mean,
No,
Probably,
I'm
but
just glad to see
you know,
representation of the Asian
yeah,
American.
exactly.
I'm just
Yeah.
glad to see that, and all of like I know a little bit more about the Shang-Chi character because Jim Starlin, who was one of the creators who also created Thanos and some other characters, they were trying to get the Kung Fu David Carradine character, and Chris, you kind of alluded to it a little bit in the beginning. The the descendant of Fu Manchu, highly racist character. And Warner Brothers owned that character at the time, so they did not want to give it to Marvel. So they recreated Shang Chi and they modeled him after Bruce Lee.
Strong.
The way Bruce Lee was drawn in the 70s is what they modeled Shang Chi after. But
Mm,
unfortunately, the character didn't go well past once we got past the 70s kung fu flicks. Character then wasn't too hot. They went back to the traditional white characters and whatnot. So seeing in the latter years of Marvel bringing back some of these characters, including Shang-Chi and other lesser known characters like Luke Cage, although I'm not a fan of of the TV show, I think it's a good step for Marvel to when we talk about diversity and inclusion, and I've always been a proponent of the fact it's not just good to get representation. You have to get good representation. Don't just give me a Luke Cage or Black Lightning. Give me a Black Panther and a Shuri.
mm-hmm.
Okay. Don't give me just a regular Asian dude. Benoit, who
Right.
I love Benoit in this movie as well. Give me
oh, so
Simu
good.
Liu as Shang-Chi. Make me connect.
Yeah.
I'm not a member of the Asian American community, but I am a fan of the Asian American culture. And give me a character to me that shows positive imaging of that community and not necessarily stereotypes. Which again, martial arts I get it, it's a stereotype, but you're showing me possibility where next you could take this character and make him part of the regular lexicon of your superheroes. I want to see this Halloween. I love to see in my Lily White's suburb neighborhood some of these kids dress up as Shang-Chi. That'd be freaking great with the
Yeah.
freaking 10 rings on, like they did for Black Panther 3 years ago. I love to see that.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. What kind of stuck out to me is I was listening to people talk about Marvel's previous attempts at their unfortunate usage of Asian culture and not really facing it with the movies. So we have like the ancient one, and so they kind of tried to avoid it completely. Just cast Tilda Swinton and say, yeah, she's Celtic or something. Like they just, but they still said it in Tibet, and we all know that the whole Danny Rand thing. You know, I know that that was Netflix more than Marvel, but that really didn't go over too well. So it's like it's nice to see them go. If you're gonna use a culture, pass along the actual to people who know how to build around it.
Yeah. The proper representation is great. I'm also excited for the diversity coming with the Eternals, like Kumail Nanjiani,
Hmm.
even though he's not originally Indian, right? The character,
Right.
but he decided to take on that form and that culture and become a Bollywood actor and stuff like that. So that's good. It's good to see that representation. It
Agreed.
means something to it means something to people who watch it. So
It
Yeah, and
does.
and to have that representation behind the camera doing the work, and it shows when you watch the movie
right,
how different that is. You know.
yeah.
All right. Why don't we just give our grades here? So, Brooksy, what's your grade for Shang Chi and the Legend of the Ten Rings?
I gave it an A.
I think that's your first A. That's not a Zack Snyder movie.
No, I
No,
gave
Fast and
F9.
Furious
That's
9.
fine.
Fast and Furious. I gave an A plus. Calm down. Um, I gave Black Widow an A also.
Oh, you did. Yeah, right.
Mhm.
Nice. All right, James, what's your grade?
A minus. If you take out that furry ball creature, I'd give it an A.
All right,
What?
Mike.
You just don't like animals.
For me, also A minus. Great overall, all around MCU movie. Yeah,
Yeah, I want to watch this a dozen more times, but I'm gonna start with an A. We can always edit and change. I don't think I would go below A minus, but A is what I'm feeling right now. I
yeah,
love so much about it. The only thing that brought it down was, and it's not like they built the character up, but I feel like Death Dealer felt a lot of. I felt a lot of um, uh, vibes like they were trying to get people to really dig into that as sort of a semi bad guy character that you were supposed to care about and that he was going to mean something, and then they just
yeah.
kind of
It's like what's the
ghosted
name
him.
in Star Wars Disney sequels? Captain.
Yeah, that's what I was trying to come up with. Like
Oh,
Yeah,
Phasma.
Phasma. Phasma.
Phasma. Same thing.
Yeah, and
Cool
and
action
even
figure and
even what's
toy.
his name? Not the Mandalorian. Yeah,
Boba Fett. Boba
Boba
Fett.
Fett. Boba Fett. The original Boba Fett was like that, where it's like, yeah, that was cool. He kind of walked down a platform. Like, that looked really cool.
And then 30 years from now, Marvel's gonna do animated movie about the Death Dealer's history.
That's right. There we go. And it'll be a super popular TV show.
Yeah, right.
But all right, this was a great conversation about a great movie. Um, and I think we're gonna head out for tonight. So you know what? Next week we'll try to catch up on some information. We'll talk about maybe the universe as a whole. Maybe we'll have a quick peek about it or something,
Yeah, we should
guys.
really break down for those who don't know what's coming and where the MCU actually stands,
Yeah,
right?
I want to know what everybody thinks the next Avengers lineup will be, because I think we have a
Yeah,
lot of options
Ooh.
here.
that's a good
I
question.
think
Yeah,
we're overdue for Brooks Ask the Nerds about all these characters from all these MCU movies that are recent and upcoming ones.
uh,
Like
I'm
Eternals.
ready.
I'm sure even like Eternals. What is that about?
Yeah,
Never heard of it.
we're gonna have four MCU related movies this year. It's gonna be
yeah.
crazy.
It's too
All right.
many. We need more DC.
So as usual, everyone, don't forget to like, subscribe, share, follow us on the social media at Heroes Peak, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube. Uh, hit the like button, click that bell in the corner to get notifications, and thanks for watching.
Yeah, thanks for joining us, everybody. Guys, thanks
Leave a
for
comment
the
also. Leave a
conversation.
comment, please. Leave a comment.
Yeah,
Mm,
let us know what you think.
tell us what we missed, and tell
All
us what
right.
you liked. Have a good night.
Good night.